Good afternoon. Every one of us, when we start our career in teaching, there is one issue which keeps nagging. I mean, we don't even share with others at times. And that is, am I capable of teaching? Am I able to teach well to my satisfaction? Of course, there are, you have this student feedback, let all be there. I can't go around in the town and ask, am I a good teacher? I need to assess for myself. So this is a practical issue which we all face, especially when we start our career. So what are a few things that we need to do if we want to feel that confidence in us? And so let's look at a few issues on that. To be able to say I am doing a good job of teaching, whatever be the subject, the starting point is to believe seriously, work for it, invest for it, that this basic axiom that teacher knows much more than what the student knows. This is very, very important. I think we should take it very serious. Sometimes we think there is a textbook, we will read that chapter and then go to the class. A lot of people do that unwittingly. The students read it better than us. So therefore, we may be actually sometimes wanting. So I think we have to start with this basic premise that the teacher must know much more than what the student knows. So that brings us to the second basic axiom of gaining confidence in teaching is a good teacher uses only about 25% of what he actually prepared while actually he or she walked into the classroom. That's all we must use. So this is much harder said than done, because people say, am I wasting my time? There is an anomaly here. You are saying, I prepare this much and I just take finally what I deliver is only this much, even though I prepared so much. There lies the trick and there lies the secret. This anomaly is very, very important, because the more we read, not only that we become very confident, in fact this is an experience that we will have to go through, we will become very confident. Moment we go and stand there, you will see an air of confidence because you read so much. But you will see it much more, when a student asks a question, trying to clarify, trying to give a certain clarity of thought requires that we know much more. This is very, very important. Therefore, don't think it is an anomaly. This is the only way we gain confidence. Now the question is, where is this 4 times reading and this 25% spending and all that? Let me give you some broad guidelines. Being in a business school, we must understand that there is great importance of applied work, observing practice. So you may have a lot of good concepts. I'll give you a simple example. There is something called news vendor problem. The news vendor, the newspaper boy has a simple problem. Should he buy 100 papers or 80 papers? Suppose he bought 100 papers and today's demand is 120 papers. He lost the opportunity of making money on 20 more papers. Suppose he bought 150 papers. The demand was only 100. Then these 50 papers goes waste. This is a classic problem. So, you can neither overorder nor you can underorder. Now, and there are some good models, simple models. If you teach this model, I think you have done the biggest disservice to the students, because they don't know what to do with this model. Because nobody is going to solve a news vendor problem sitting in Reliance and Tata Motors or Toyota or whatever. Now the charm is, you should be able to show how this structure can be applied in 1 dozen situations. Then eyes wide open. That is what I mean by applied work, observing practice. For example, we recently solved, all the software companies go once in a year to an engineering college and recruit students. So they have a very similar problem. If their demand is X, which needed, let's say, 1000 students, and they ended up recruiting only 800 students, then the 200 equivalent of capacity, since they don't have, they cannot bid those projects. Suppose they recruited 1000 students and the demand was only 600, then the 400 students are sitting on the bench. This is the word they use in software sector. on the bench. So like this, if you can show half a dozen, I can give you half a dozen example, which I am not going to, it will become very long. The point I am making is, if we can talk of a model or a concept and show how it is actually used in several places, it has phenomenal value. This is very important to be a good business school teacher. Now, how do I know that? You may ask that question. So, we need to constantly dig into the world of practice. This is an occupational requirement for a business school professor, please understand. We need to constantly dig into the world of practice while we may be publishing, writing papers, reading our other things. We must constantly dig into the world of practice. How do we do that? Get into the internet, YouTubes, social media. Maybe you need to understand what's happening. And you may connect some of those to the topics that you are discussing in your class, maybe next week, maybe a couple of months later. The project work by the students is a great opportunity. We should take it quite serious, because that is the window through which we actually understand the problem. Students may not solve the problem, but they may actually bring a good problem to the table. To that extent, they will succeed. So we should get very involved in that. We should scan the media, the magazines, Business Todays and Business Horizons and so on. There are a lot of news feeders and so on. I think these are very, very important to be a good business school professor, because only then we will be able to connect our practice to theory and so on. That makes it valuable. Of course, when we do consulting, that's another opportunity which can come by in terms of knowing what are the problems that are faced in the industry and so on. The last thing which is very, very important, many don't think about it, we must read what I call it as seemingly unrelated aspects. For example, I am an operations professor. I will actually read a little bit about financial statements. I will read about balance sheets and profitability of companies in this year, because I may use it in my lecture. I may be able to clarify some ideas. I may read some of the interesting marketing things that are happening, and I may look at balance sheets and learn to know what is there in a balance sheet and so on. This is also very important. So if we can do all these, probably for every 1 hour you will end up spending 10 hours. And you may end up spending only 10% of what you prepared, but you will become a great teacher. I hope you will be able to take these things quite serious, and you will see a joy of teaching, and that confidence which will come within, that's very important. Feedback and all, let it happen. We should feel confident, we should feel happy when we walk out of the classroom. Hopefully you will be able to follow some of these guidelines and experience the joy for yourself. Thank you.